All right, people. Season 2, episode 20, Talkin' Lost. We are officially in the end game right now. And man, banger of an episode. Banger of an episode. Like we're going a little bit early today because like I said, we don't want to waste any time because you are like the review last week. You are very excited for the F1 race that is coming out today. We're reviewing Jurassic World right after this, and I think it's safe to say that we are going to have a lot more to talk about with this episode than we are with that movie. But
it's good that the 3 big trailers came out. We
Yeah.
can fill the rest of the Jurassic episode with.
Yes.
So.
And it's funny because just to give you guys a little bit of a precursor. So as we were waiting for Jurassic World, as you guys probably also already know, AMC has officially enacted their plan of now introducing, in addition to trailers, they are playing even more ads. And what I didn't realize is that they are also doing ads in between the trailers. Traditionally, what they would do is they would play the ads first, then they would play the trailers, then go right into the movie.
Yeah, that's what we have here.
Yeah, now they're interspersing ads. Well, it was funny because they did the whole AMC thing in order to introduce the movie, and I was pissed because I'm like, what the fuck? I only came to see this stupid movie so I could see the Odyssey trailer. But then they played the Odyssey trailer. And I'm like, oh, okay, now everything is right with the world. So we'll get into all of that on the Jurassic World bit. But first, Talkin' Lost, man. 2 for the road. So like I said, this is a big episode. We got a massive cliffhanger at the end of last week's episode when Michael comes wandering. After 10 episodes of not seeing him, Michael comes wandering out of the woods. Jack and Kate see him. They immediately are like, what the hell is he doing back? Like, did the others send him back? They're not sure if the others were like responding to their trade or not. And they decide to immediately bring him back to the hatch. But this episode pulls a little bit of a bait and switch where Michael's back, so you're automatically thinking, okay, what's going to happen? But then the episode turns out to be, an Ana Lucia focused episode. Not only like I said, there's a lot that happens in this episode, but not only that, but Ana Lucia, it ends up kind of being her wrap-up episode unintentionally, not to mention the fact that this episode also was not supposed to end the way that it did. I'm going to get into that as well. This is one of the episodes where there was a major behind-the-scenes incident that caused the studio executives, not even Lindelof and Cuse, the studio executives at ABC to be like, yeah, you two, you're gone. And it forced them to write them out in a very unsuspecting way that in a weird way actually ended up benefiting the show in hindsight. And I have to point that out because it's studio decisions like that almost always ruin shows and movies like this. But this is the one instance where it actually kind of was better for the storytelling, because if they had kept because spoiler alert, we lose 2 characters this episode. Ana Lucia and Libby unfortunately die at the end of this episode in a very shocking and unsuspecting move. But in a weird way, it's like I can't think of any other way that this episode could have ended is the thing. Like I don't see a version of this episode ending where those 2 survive. Like Libby maybe, but like as far as Ana Lucia and the direction that this story is going, I don't see a version of this where she survives,
Yeah, and just to go back to the studio thing, like Lost was pretty booming at this time, I would expect.
Right. Yeah, it was amazing. We were halfway through season 2. People were thirsting every week, trying to find out what was going on in the hatch. It was like probably the biggest show on the air right now. Because like I said, it had premiered around the same time that House and Grey's Anatomy did. And I believe around this time it had surpassed them both in terms of viewership. I mean, it was one of those things where you had like the King show and then all the other secondary shows that were kind of like grasping onto its what's the word I'm looking for? That were grasping onto its I don't remember anyways, but the point being, it would be like during the prime of Game of Thrones when you would have all these other HBO shows that would be like coming on right after it, and they would be able to like catch the secondary views because everybody was watching Game of Thrones. That's kind of what it was like. But
but I agree with you. Like looking back, I'm like, okay, this is kind of Ana Lucia's like especially through her flashbacks. Like, okay, this is her arc. Pretty much done. There's not like a whole lot left to explore. Libby, there was that mini cliffhanger in Hurley's flashback. I don't know if we'll have any closure there, or that's going to be another one of those lost threads that just like hangs. But yeah, really good flashback episode featuring who I'm going to call the Nick Fury of the Lost. Like he's recruiting everyone to Australia.
Jack's dad, Christian Shepherd, he's back in this episode too. We get into that.
He's like one of my favorite characters.
He's pretty awesome. He's so good. You got to watch the Bond movies where he plays Felix Leiter, because he's so bad as Felix Leiter, but he's so good in these in Lost. It's honestly kind of insane. John Terry as Christian Shepherd. Who again is
I have a crackpot theory about, like, we'll get to that.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. But so like I said, so this episode starts like I said, Jack and Kate, bring Michael back to the hatch. But then, like I said, the episode really starts where Ana Lucia is trying to interrogate Henry Gale, Ben Linus. Then he unexpectedly strangles her and is like, you killed 2 of us. You're the killer here. And I was trying to remember. I was trying to scratch my head because I'm like, okay, I know she killed Goodwin. I'm like, but who was the second one that he was talking about? Was he talking about Shannon? I'm like, because Shannon wasn't an other. So who was he talking about with the second person? Like, am I missing something here? Like, I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. Maybe in the early flashback of the 48 days, maybe there was like on the beach or something.
Maybe
I don't remember.
Maybe that was it. Maybe when they tried to take, because I know Echo killed the 2 others. I know that, but Ana Lucia, to my knowledge, only killed Goodwin. So So I guess that's where my confusion. Maybe Ben was making a mistake. But so he tries to strangle Ana Lucia. Locke comes in, saves her at the last minute. What's it called? Then we have Jack and Kate bringing Michael back. And basically, essentially, like, I want to talk about the flashbacks too, because the flashbacks are really, really interesting. I think this might be like one of the best flashbacks. Like, even though she only gets like 2 flashback episodes, Ana Lucia, you really get the sense of just how troubled and how damaged of a character she was. And also, too, another part of the reason why this is kind of a wrap-up episode is this the episode that tells us why she was in Australia, you know? Again, part of the thing that was so cool about the majority of the season 1 flashbacks is that we ended up getting all of their reasons for why they went to Australia. You know, it's kind of interesting because even though I talked a lot about how everything that Damon Lindelof does is the exploration of grief and getting past trauma while also exploring different ideas of life and death. Again, this was explored much more heavily in The Leftovers, I feel, but this show, it was also doing it as well. You almost see this connecting tissue between all these characters as far as why they went to Australia, and you understand why they were on this plane and why they all crash landed on this island, because they all had this grief, this trauma that they were trying to get past. And now you see that with Ana Lucia, where she went to Australia. Well, first, it picks up immediately after her last flashback episode, Collision, which we covered several weeks ago, where her mom basically brings her in and basically tells her, what a coincidence. The dude who we know for a fact shot you brings in, you refuse to ID him. We have to let him go. 24 hours later, he turns up dead with 5 bullets in him. No witnesses. It's like, yeah, this is going to be an open and shut case, but I know this was you. And so basically Ana Lucia is like, yeah, I quit. Like there's no way that this is going to go well for me. So she quits. Next thing you know, she's working as a security person at the check-in at the airport. She runs into, like we were saying, what's it called? Jack Shepard's dad, Christian. At the bar, he recruits her for a mission in Australia as like, as like some bodyguard work. We're gonna do some made up names, so like very Bond-esque, ironically enough. As far as the recruitment tactic goes, they go to Australia. It's nothing for like 4 straight days. She's like, oh wow, so nothing but drinking and for 4 days straight, and now you actually want to go do something, and you just see he's a mess. He's like on the verge of death when he like looks at her. You know, he's got the white beard. He's drinking every minute. He could barely carry over himself, and she drives him to this house where he ends up, running into a woman, and they, of course, they get into an argument. It's Christian Shepherd, so it's not going to go well. They end up getting into an argument. They're like, it's my daughter too. I deserve to see her. Which
this is where my theory comes in.
Yeah,
that's Claire's mom.
Boom! You got it. Yes. You got it. Yep, you got it. So this is the episode that basically tells you, yes, and in fact, Jack and Claire are siblings. Christian is both of their fathers as well. I couldn't remember when the first episode that we got it, but I was just thinking, I'm like, it's so obvious. Who's the only character on the plane that was a native Australian? It's
this blonde woman with curly hair.
Oh, I wonder who that could be. Yeah, yep, you nailed it. Like I said, it's a little bit of time before Jack finds out. I believe it's not until season 3 or 4, one of the two, where they officially put 2 and 2 together, and he's able to tell Claire. But yes, yes, this is the official confirmation. Christian is also Claire's father as well. Hence the daddy abandonment issues. So it's not just Jack that's dealing with that.
It's the whole island.
It's the whole island. It's the whole island. Christian is haunting the whole island. I'm just waiting. Because how many characters does he connect now? It's how many characters does he connect now? Jack, Sawyer, Ana Lucia, Claire. There's another one I think that he ends up interacting with as well. But
he runs into Sawyer here, like before they meet.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
so like, I'm walking here.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny too. How it's like, oh, that's funny. Where it's like he ends up like pulling the the Midnight Cowboy, and then but then he ends up like having the heart-to-heart with him in the part that like inspires Sawyer to like go and kill the dude. So I thought that was really funny. But yeah, Ana Lucia's Christian basically after the fact basically tells Ana Lucia it's like, yeah, we're both pathetic. That's why we're with each other. And it basically again inspires this sense of like what Ana Lucia's trauma is that she feels that she is not worthy of love, of acceptance, of adoration. And what makes the ending even more heartbreaking is the fact that when she's back at the airport, and then you see the scene of Jack, pleading with the desk attendant in order to let the coffin with his dad on the plane. You see Ana Lucia there, and it inspires her to go and call her mom and like basically reforge a connection with her. And basically be like, yeah, I'm coming home. I'm ready to come back. I'm ready to move past it. I'm on this flight, and then we all know what happens next. And it really, really makes it heartbreaking because she basically sees herself as like, and then when we're following her plot line on the island, it's kind of a similar thing where she basically is humiliated by Ben after he beats the crap out of her and is about to kill her before having to be saved by John, which is in addition to, her being mad at herself for falling so easily for Ben, but also the fact that Locke had to be the one to save her. She's also angry because again, it's the fact that she's been humiliated, but also it's the fact that, wow, we've had this dude that we know is a bad guy, and I'm not going to kill him. That's kind of like my role here is I'm the killer. And so she goes to Sawyer, to try and get a gun. Sawyer, of course, is not letting up. Sawyer is one. So Sawyer goes back and forth every other episode from being like an asshole to like being somewhat of a
guy
of an
who has
ally.
a silly subplot.
Exactly.
To being sheriff of the town. And
but yes, but Ana Lucia is not messing around. Consider the fact that, again, she sleeps with him in order to literally get a gun.
Almost 2 seasons on this island. It's the first time someone gets some action. I'm like,
yeah.
I figured this would be earlier, but no, you gotta stretch out the Jack and Kate thing because she gets Sawyer's mind. Like, Kate's hanging out with Jack, and that gets him a little bit. So.
Yeah, because the thing that I had forgotten too is I had forgotten that like after we started our rewatch last year, the thing that I had forgotten is that. I was always convinced that it was going to be Jack and Kate, but I forget that for a majority of the time it is Jack and Sawyer. Well, sorry, it is Kate and
Jack
Sawyer.
And Sawyer.
Yeah, right. Could you imagine if it was today? It would be Jack. And Sawyer.
It was today with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But then. But I forgot that for a majority of season 1 because Jack rejects Kate because he doesn't trust her because he doesn't know anything about her. It ends up being Kate and Sawyer because they end up relating both on being outlaws. And then it's not until season 2 that Kate starts to come back more so towards Jack and everything, especially after everything with the others. And that, but Jack is too busy fighting with Locke every 5 minutes in order to actually notice that he's like, oh, there's this gorgeous woman right here that's throwing herself at me. Oh boy, what should I possibly do in this scenario? But so she sleeps with Sawyer. She gets the gun. She's about to go and kill Ben. And then she relents at the last minute. And then, of course, that leads to the ending, which I'm going to save that. But what's it called? So basically, then you have the secondary plot, of course, which is Michael. And that's the other thing, too, also, is this is the first Lost episode in a while where there's no like tertiary plot that's kind of just there as filler. All 3 of the plot lines in this episode end up building to this crescendo because, again, even though the Libby death is an accident and a mistake and feels out of nowhere, it still works because you have this great buildup where Hurley, this entire episode, is trying to do, to plan the perfect date for Libby. She's finally accepted him. He's finally gotten over the trauma from the Dave episode. He's finally ready to take her on, but he's so clueless about how to do it properly that Libby is like, again, just the pure soul that she is going to go get some blankets from the hatch in order to try and help him, accidentally walks in to see Michael shooting Ana Lucia and gets shot herself. And it's so heartbreaking because you're like, man, they finally, because it's not only a double fuck you for Ana Lucia getting a hapless ending after she'd finally redeemed herself, but also it's like Hurley had finally found love and now that gets taken from him too. It's such a heartbreaking moment. And so then you have, what's it called? So then you have the Ben Linus conversation with Locke after the fact.
Yeah,
where
it feels like they have this conversation every episode.
Yes, but this is the one where it's like, oh, like now that we know that Ben's full of shit, like the problem is that like Locke at this point knows that Ben is full of shit, but he's still falling for his bullshit because Ben, again, is such a master manipulator. He knows exactly what to say and what he's doing. He's being like, oh, now that they've got Michael back, he's like, yeah, I have no trade value, so I'm not going to last too much longer. He's like, before Russo caught me, I was on my way here. I was on my way to find you because you're it, John. You're the one. you're one of the special ones. And I'm just sitting there being like, oh, this guy is so full of shit. Because again, knowing where the plot trajectory is going to go and knowing what he actually means, especially when he's talking about the man in charge. I've referenced Jacob a couple of times on this episode. Like I said, we don't know who he is yet. We won't even meet him. Like,
He's a great man, John.
He's a great man. I was like, okay, like we get it. But like I said, it was Lindelof and Cuse are not subtle about the fact that even though, again, everything that's happening on the island is real, that like they are very, very intentionally putting like certain figures that represent like, different messianic figures from the past onto the island as well. Like I said, is this Jesus figure, that the others frequently talk about, this Jacob character. He is the man in charge that Ben Linus is referring to. I won't go into detail, but like I said, I know that we get the closest to seeing Jacob in season 4, but we don't actually see him until the end of season 5. But what's it called? Like I said, it also may or may not as well tie into the smoke monster as well. But angel, devil, that whole thing. But
I haven't seen that in.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen the smoke monster. I think since the Echo solo episodes early on. But what's it called? So like I said, just more blatant Ben Linus manipulation. It's very, very obvious. Locke should know better, but he doesn't. He still falls for it every second that he can. And this, of course, leads to another conversation with Jack, where basically Jack was like, yeah, you were right about the others. And then, of course, also that leads to Michael when he wakes up and he's basically telling them, he's like, yeah, I found the others. I followed them along the coastline. They're like, they dress in huts. They survive off fish. He's like, we could easily take him. He's like, all I got to do is recover my strength, and then we could go and we could take him. And so. Jack and what are your thoughts, your reactions to that?
It was
moment?
At this point where I'm like, there's something not right. Because
this is where you start to be like,
because through Claire's flashbacks, we know that they're not like
right,
living in huts or whatever. And this is like, okay, Michael, he still hasn't gotten Walter back. That's his clear motivation. That's like all he cares about at this point. So there's something there. Like, this doesn't really seem like himself quite
You're like,
yet.
This is all feeling a little, like I said, after Michael
we're getting closer to the end of the episode. Like at this point, every episode is going to end with a cliffhanger. Something's going to happen. And then evidently it does.
Yeah, exactly.
And that removes Jack and Locke from the hatch. It's like everything would go a lot smoother if everyone just would tell each other what they know.
Seriously. It's like it's the biggest flaw of this season, but again, it does make for good storytelling decisions in that once Jack and Locke discover the hatch, they basically keep it to like within their special select circle. It's like Kate, Saeed, Hurley, Ana Lucia, and like nobody else basically comes in or around the hatch essentially. And I'm like, well, that's kind of a mistake. It's kind of what drove Charlie away. It's kind of what alienated Jin and Sun a little bit. It's like, just not the greatest decision making here. But of course, they're like, okay. They're like, we got to prep for going to fight the others. Jack and Locke do have one more argument here, but it's so small and insignificant that I honestly completely forgot what it is. Locke, of course, is off elsewhere because now he's basically like, oh, Ben's basically said, yeah, I could be the savior of the island now. So Locke's back in his savior complex mode. Jack, of course, is basically like, yeah, we need to take the others. Because they're animals, blah, 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 because they still think the others are like savages living in the woods, even though we know at this point that they are a lot more civilized and that, the whole savage act has been for show. I said that too. Kate found the beard, so she knows that part of this is a facade. So you would think that she would tell them that, like, hey.
She told Jack about the beard.
Right, right. So why isn't Jack, like, putting that together?
I think it's a bit like, okay, we have to get rid of these two characters. We need some kind of way to make that function. We can cheat a little bit here, so give them some leeway there.
Exactly. So like I said, it ends. Jack, Kate, and Locke leave. Ana Lucia volunteers to stay in the hatch and look after Michael and Henry. They go to try and coerce Sawyer into getting the guns from him. It ends with Jack literally pulling a gun on Sawyer, which, of course, how can that possibly go? That's when Sawyer realized that Ana Lucia took his gun back in the hatch. Ana Lucia, like I said, is about to pull the trigger on Ben, can't do it. Michael comes in, and this is where we get to the ending, where, okay, so do we go over the ending first, or do you want the backstory first, as far as why this ended up happening?
Well, let's just, we touched on what happened. So Michael shoots Ana Lucia.
Yes.
Like, okay,
well, it's not just that. It's that Michael comes out. Ana Lucia is very much still in grief and despair over having not been able to pull the trigger on Ben. Michael volunteers to pull the trigger on Ben, say that like, oh, you can't do it, I'll do it. They're animals, they deserve to die anyways. He takes the gun, apologizes, shoots Ana Lucia in the chest. She dies instantly. Next thing you know, Libby, who came in to get the blankets for Hurley, unexpectedly walks in. Michael turns around, unexpectedly shoots her twice. She's dead now. Then, realizing that he has no other choice, opens the hatch door, sees Ben, shoots himself in the arm. Episode ends, and you can immediately pretty much figure out what's going to happen next. It's like, okay, the others recruited Michael to go back and free Ben, kill whoever was guarding him, and then he shoots himself in the arm in order to make it look like Ben took the gun, killed Ana Lucia and Libby, shot him, and escapes, and he can cover his ass.
I didn't quite get the shoot himself in the arm thing. I thought he just shot something. He didn't really look like angled.
It's a brief second, but yeah, he's shooting himself on the shoulder to make it look like he was in a struggle.
Right.
That's
that makes sense.
Yes, so that's what it was. And now the backstory, which is where famously Michelle Rodriguez and Cynthia Watros, the actresses who portrayed Ana Lucia and Libby, were in a bad DUI, like a bad DUI. And apparently at this time, like I said, it was a different time in filmmaking acting, but Disney did not want the stink of that on there, so they fire them instantly. So I don't know how this episode was originally supposed to end, but basically this whole last sequence where Michael kills the two of them was a reshoot. And it feels like a reshoot too, because like just tonally, stylistically, the sound is a little bit off. It doesn't have the music.
Sound.
Exactly. There's no sound. It's completely silent. But like I said, it's one of those really, really weird instances where, again, they were both simultaneously fired, so they both had to be killed off in one instance, right? Again, it's that one random instance where a real-life event influencing an episode actually ended up being more beneficial for the episode. And I don't know, I have no knowledge of what the original plans were, but just knowing that behind the scenes, and especially to how it goes into it, because even, again, as seamless as it is, that whole sequence feels like it feels like a reshoot. It feels like all the actors were brought back and they shot that specific sequence completely separately from the rest of the season. So now that you know all that, what are your thoughts on it?
And you said this is a Disney?
Yep, because it's ABC, owned by Disney.
ABC. I think it was the island intervening in real life, saying, no,
I mean, the amount of dreams that you've had about the island, it makes sense.
This isn't where the story can go. We need to kill off these two characters. The island intervened in real life. I think that's the outreach of it. But my first thought was, okay, we're clearing room for season 3 and the others to become more main players in terms of episode appearances and things like that. Because we've been talking, like, it's already crowded. Like we had the whole new group come over from the other side of the island. Like, characters don't appear for half the season, and then suddenly, oh, right, they're also in the show. Like you might see Echo like in the background of a shot. Maybe Jin has a pretty funny moment in his episode where he's like,
yeah.
But yeah, like would I have liked to see more of them? Like, maybe, but I feel like they really handled Ana Lucia's arc well in this episode.
Yes.
Libby, well, we didn't really get a whole lot of her. She didn't get any flashbacks. So.
Yeah, she didn't get. Well, like I said, we only have the one thing in the Dave episode where it's revealed that she was in the same mental asylum that Hurley was.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that, in another life, in
another life,
maybe 2 other characters got killed off instead of them. So
right.
But yeah, just have to see how the rest of the season plays out, what the reaction is from Jack and the others.
Either way, like I said, it's a massive story development. Again, considering that Michael has been gone for a majority of this season, now he's back. He kills these two. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, he frees Ben. So the next thing you know, you can assume that, like, oh, it is on like Donkey Kong as well. Like I said, we only have 3 episodes left. Next week, I'll admit, it's a little bit of a side quest episode, the question mark. That's Locke and Echo's quest for the question mark, which is the center of all the hatches that Locke's on the map in the lockdown episode. But then after that, we have 3 minutes, which is the lead up to the finale, which we're covering at the end of July. Also, Fantastic Four weekend, Live Together, Die Alone, our next big season finale. What could possibly be exploding in this episode? Tune in a couple weeks in order to find out. In the meantime, we'll be right back for Jurassic World Rebirth. Ugh. We have mutant dinosaurs now. Stay tuned.
The most undeserving financially successful franchise.
I'll save that. I have a lot of thoughts about that. We'll see you guys in like 10 minutes.